going for refuge by feeling useful fear of the suffering of psychic existence in general, using the words as we recite to recollect the disadvantages, the drawbacks of psychic existence that we were meditating on earlier in the afternoon. Recollecting the experience of going for refuge that we had the last session. And now in particular we're going to be spending some time thinking about the Bodhichitta lines. So generate that useful fear of psychic existence and lower realms especially, and faith in the Guru, Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, being able to free ourselves and all sentient beings from that, and then entrusting oneself. Zangye Jedan Zoge Chanam La Janjo Bada Dani Gyabzu Chi Dagi Jinzo Gibe Sonangi Drola Penje Zangi Drobara Jo. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. So to emphasize the Bodhichitta aspiration for full awakening for the sake of all sentient beings, that's contained within those last two lines, we're going to meditate on the awakening mind, trying to generate the awakening mind as best we can, using the 7 cause and effect instruction, which is well known to us all, starting with meditation on equanimity. Equanimity means having an unbiased mind. It's the opposite of the mind which is swayed by attachment and anger, through the attachment to some, seeing them as our friends. We hold them close and create all kinds of negative karma on their behalf. Then out of anger and hatred towards others, we hold them distant and want to harm them, and in this way create so much negative karma. And others who've neither harmed us or helped us, we feel neutral towards. So first think of a friend, enemy and stranger, which means somebody you feel attachment towards, somebody you feel anger or hatred or dislike towards, then someone you feel neutral about. And ask yourself about the role of attachment towards the one, why you feel that attachment and what that attachment does. Think of what it does, how that does harm you, how it harms oneself and others. And in the same way with the anger or the dislike towards the person we label enemy, even if we don't actually label them enemy, we label them like somebody we don't like. Attachment and anger always include an element of exaggeration. The object might be 50% nice, and then we add 50 more on, make it so nice, 100% nice. And like that with anger, there's also exaggeration, and then it disturbs the mind. It creates disturbance. They damage our minds. So try to think about the way in which we relate to friend, enemy and stranger with attachment, anger and indifference. Think about also how the indifference towards the person who's neither helped us or harmed us also in its own way damages us, and automatically in that way damages others. Sometimes it's difficult to find somebody that you think of as a friend, an enemy, a stranger, or somebody that you feel neutral towards. So simply start off maybe by, well, we've already started, so anyway, just try a different tack. Think of somebody you like. Think of somebody you don't like, something you feel indifferent towards, and ask yourself whether there is some kind of attachment there, some exaggeration, something which damages and disturbs one's mind, damages one's way of interacting with that person. And likewise with the anger, the enemy, the person you don't like. See if there is a kind of like this anger which exaggerates and disturbs and disrupts things, damages things. And see if there is a real sense of indifference towards a neutral person, just not particularly a friend or enemy. And if you can't find somebody that you kind of don't really care about, and you might feel there's nobody I don't care about as a Mahayana practitioner, but think about it. You hear of a busload of people being killed, and immediately one feels, oh, that's so sad, oh, that's terrible. But now just imagine one of the people in that bus was your mother or your father, your child. It's a completely different reaction. So there are people that we feel relatively indifferent towards. So again, think of somebody that you like, somebody you don't like, somebody you don't particularly feel one way or the other about, and try to see if there is that attachment and anger and indifference. spend a few minutes now thinking about the next step in the meditation, which is asking ourselves why I like this person that we're calling friend, why I like them, why I'm attached to them. The person we're calling enemy, why do I dislike this person? The person that we're calling a stranger or neutral, why do I feel that kind of indifference towards them? Try to see how the reason is always something quite trifling, nearly always something quite trifling. And even when it seems like a really good sound reason, when we think of the great kindness that all sentient beings have shown us, then when it comes to harm, some harm they might have done us in this life, that's nothing. And so on. to spend a few minutes thinking about how pointless it is to be caught up in this whole web of attachment and hatred or dislike and the neutral feeling. Because this is something which is changing all the time. Friend, enemy and stranger, changing all the time. They change. They can even change repeatedly in one lifetime, and certainly when you think of past lives. The best friend has been the worst enemy. The worst enemy has been the best friend. The person who's neutral has been both. Why bother? Just try to feel that it's pointless. Not only pointless, it's very harmful actually. It completely blocks us from being able to generate genuine feelings of loving kindness towards all beings. So then make the firm determination to be equanimous towards all sentient beings, to have equanimity towards sentient beings, all mother sentient beings. So this is not a mind which is indifferent towards all beings. It's a mind which is not disrupted and caused to function badly in a destructive and disturbing way because of the attachment and the anger relating to people in that way. It's a mind which makes us open to the possibility of sincere affection and concern for all beings without exception. And the way we do that is by, first of all, meditating on how all beings have been one's mother. So spend a few minutes thinking how all beings have been one's mother countless times in past lives, and when they were our mother, they were so kind. This kindness is something we can see first in our own mother, and even the kindness of our own mother, we don't know all from our direct experience. We can infer from seeing how other mothers treat their children when they're young. So thinking my mother has been that kind, and also all beings were just as kind countless times when they were my mother countless times. So in this way, meditate on all beings being one's mother and thinking of the kindness. Then meditate on the next 2 points. Repaying the kindness, making up one's mind that since they have shown so much kindness to me, then absolutely I have to repay that kindness by giving them the happiness that they want, all the way up to all kinds of happiness, all the way up to enlightenment. And I have to free them from the suffering that they don't want, to free them from suffering and its causes definitively, to free them from psychic existence for good. And then, on that basis, meditating on the love which sees all these kind mother sentient beings and in a very affectionate way. It's a mind to which all sentient beings appear very dear and precious. These kind, rather sentient beings are now experiencing the three kinds of suffering. Some of them are not experiencing the suffering at this moment, but they will any moment now. And some of them are not even experiencing the suffering of change, only experiencing the suffering of compounding, pervasive suffering, pervasive compounding suffering. So they too, at any moment, their lives will come to an end, and they will have to experience the suffering of suffering in the lower realms, and so forth, once more. I absolutely have to bring an end to this and lead all beings out of suffering for good. I have to do that. I myself alone, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to wait for anybody else. I'm not going to leave it to somebody else. I myself alone am going to do this. And in order to do so, I need to achieve full awakening. And due to the virtue of having done this meditation, and due to the virtue of the past, present, and past, present, and future of oneself and others, may we achieve full awakening for the sake of all other beings, and may all beings achieve full awakening. May the precious mind of Bodhichitta be born where it has not yet been born, where it has been born. May it never decline and always increase. Janju sem jo rinpoche ma ge panam ge gyu ji ge ba nyam ba me ba yi gong ne gong du ba ba ju. The virtue dedicated, I myself, the one who's dedicating, the action of dedicating are all merely laboured and therefore totally empty of existing in the way they appear, so that the way they appear is complete hallucination.